Hi there. I'm so excited to share my top 4 ways I help clients manage portion control more naturally. This is one of the most common challenges we have as adults who eat for more than just nourishment, for stress and comfort and taste and all those great things, but also gets in the way of our healthy weight, of healing our gut issues, of not feeling gross and bloated after. So here we go. Let's dive in. The very first one, and it seems a little bit intuitive, but most of us don't do it, is eat more slowly. If you are often in the first half of people at a table to finish eating at a group meal, you're probably eating too quickly. There's a lag between your brain and your body. So when your stomach starts to get full, we really have to allow time for your brain to hear that signal, process it, and then tell you to stop eating. So when you eat really quickly, often you kind of keep eating, keep eating, keep eating until all of a sudden you feel stuffed, like it kind of comes out of nowhere. And it often gets worse as you sit after the meal. So our job is to prevent that by slowing it down. That is easier said than done. Some of the things I do with clients is have you practice just like putting your fork down halfway through a meal. So when that plate's halfway done, no matter what part of you eat, just take a 2-minute timeout. So do some dishes, chat with your family, scroll on your phone, whatever you need just to take a little break, let your brain catch up, and then go back to eating until you're satisfied. The goal is not starvation here. If you often eat distracted or stressed, taking 10 deep breaths before a meal, in and out, is going to help slow your nervous system down so you can focus on eating and digestion and those sensory cues from your gut to your brain. And it's really hard to do that when it's in fight, flight, doing mode from the day. So take that minute, slow it down, and then eat. The other one is chew more thoroughly. So one of the easiest ways to slow down is actually make sure you're chewing your food. So remember when our parents used to tell us this, we need to practice it as adults. So thinking closer to like a, you know, food processor consistency before you swallow. There shouldn't be any big chunks. It shouldn't feel awkward going down. Some clients will kind of time it to 10 or 15 chews per bite. You don't have to get that granular unless it works for your personality, but really making sure you're chewing carefully will slow the meal down. It'll give your brain something to enjoy and also give us that time for your stomach to talk to your brain. And the bonus there is that your digestion will likely be better because you've broken that food down into manageable pieces. For those of you who get indigestion after meals, reflux, or bloating, this can be a really nice way to ease those symptoms. The second thing is to savor the flavor. How often do you just kind of plow through a meal because you're really hungry or you're distracted or it was really good and not really take the time to enjoy it? Our brain really needs to check off that enjoyment to feel satisfied after a meal on top of that physical stretch. And so if we rush through a meal or we don't pay attention, you're not going to feel satisfied at the right time. And so you're going to overeat. And so the job here is to slow down and notice the taste, the texture. Is it really good? Is it just okay? Does the flavor change as you chew it? Is the sauce really good? Just kind of taking maybe those first 5 or 6 bites to really enjoy and savor the food. This is also a great strategy for cravings, and we do an exercise just on this in our Conquer Your Cravings course, and it is so impactful. One of the things the clients in the feedback often say, like, that thing really stuck with me, even though it's just such a small change in how you're looking at it. This is especially helpful with treat foods or meals out that can be really enjoyable, and so we tend to power eat them. So you get that enjoyment without having to kind of finish an arbitrary amount of food just because that's what you normally do. And then the third thing is to retune your fullness cue. So many of us have learned to eat past satisfied or eat past what would be a naturally healthy portion for us over the years. How many of us grew up clearing our plates just because there were children starving somewhere? And so we learned to ignore it at that young age. And many of us also eat past satisfaction because we're stressed or distracted or overtired. So we're using food to cope. And what happens is that that pathway in our brain that tells us we're full becomes a little skewed, right? So we kind of turn the thermostat so that full or satisfied is pretty overeating, right? So if there's a lot of heaviness, we have a lot of food, it takes a lot of volume to set that signal off. And you can change that with some mindfulness and attention. The first thing I'll have you do to start to retune that cue is pay attention to your fullness after meals. So 3 or 4 days, don't change anything, but rate your fullness from 0 to 10 when you're finished eating and write it down. Don't skip that step. 0 being ravenous and 10 being like after Thanksgiving, just stuffed, right? Uncomfortable. Most of us eat to an 8 to a 10, so we eat for full most of the time, which is more food than we need and is often really hard on our gut. What we're looking for is a sweet spot, 6 or 7. So satisfied, a little bit of stretch. We're certainly not hungry anymore, but we don't need to keep going and pushing and stuffing to really end that meal. And so the first few days, just rate it, no shame, no guilt. Know that so many of us overeat. And then after that, use some of the techniques we already chatted about to start slowing down and seeing if you can find that 6 or a 7. So again, no guilt the days you blow over it. All humans do, myself included. But the more you practice, even when you don't get it right, the more that satisfaction cue will take over at the right time and cue you a little more strongly so you're not having to pay so much attention to it forever. So this one takes practice, but it's a game changer over the long term for making this natural and easy. And the very last thing I want to talk about is managing your environment. So your home, your office, your car, places you spend a lot of time in, and we also tend to eat in. And so the big one here is particularly with foods you might find triggering for volume. So this is a food that once you stop or once you start, you really have a hard time stopping, or that you overeat every time without thinking, or that you tend to eat really distractedly. So those foods, trying to minimize them in your environment by either out of sight. So I'm super short at 5'2", so often just on a high shelf will do it. And then I can go get them when I really want them, but they're not right at eye level, kind of tempting me all of the time. It might also be not keeping those foods at home for now. So if you have a lot of emotional eating, a lot of cravings, a lot of trouble with volume, it's a better choice to go get those foods in a small amount when you want them, enjoy them, but not stock up your house. And the reason for that is the more often we see something or smell it or have to move it in the cupboard to get to the healthy thing we're looking for, the more we're having to use that no muscle over and over again, and it gets worn out, right? And if you are tired, if you're stressed, if life has been really challenging, which, I feel that my last month has been pretty challenging too, that no muscle is already pretty tired. Our capacity is lowered. So there's not a really big point in testing yourself just to fail, right? Set yourself up for success, clean that environment out up to your threshold, and then go and enjoy those foods in small amounts when it makes sense and you feel satisfied and confident and in control. And the very last one is if you have a roommate or a partner or kids who tend to like snack while you're in the room and you're finding that really tempting, so you're trying to relearn some of these habits, try to change the space. So either distraction like reading or knitting or painting your nails or playing a game on your phone can work great just to help your brain focus on something else instead of feeling jealous and super obsessed about what they're eating. The other would sometimes be replacing it with something like a tea or a bubbly water. So something for your hands and mouth to do. And sometimes if it's a really strong craving, but you won't feel good eating it, it's not something you're really going to get satisfaction from, or it's not going to make your body feel good. The other would be leaving the space for a little while. So going and reading in the bedroom, having a bath, like going for a walk, cleaning the dishes if that's your jam, but just kind of removing yourself from the temptation for now until you're feeling more confident and you're more in tune with those hunger and fullness cues. So it's much easier to manage and feel in control. I hope these were helpful for you. A lot of this we talk about in our Conquer Your Cravings program, so they get much more detail. But I know that even if that program is not for you, we all struggle with this sometimes. And I want to really drive home that you do not need to feel like you nail it every time. I don't. I'm a dietitian. I talk about it for a living. I do my absolute best to honor my body, but sometimes my emotions get the better of me, and that's okay, right? Our goal is to honor your body and also enjoy the heck out of food. I hope this was helpful. I would love if you'd hit reply or comment below if you're on YouTube and let me know what you thought and how you find those tips. Did you try any of that at home? Let me know. Have a fantastic day, guys.